if I could go back, I wouldn't be so independent. Being the only child, I had to grow up very quickly, and I had to learn how to do things on my own. And I love that, but as I became an adult, it really jeopardized a lot of my relationships. And also turning 30, I also saw a post of somebody saying that if you single and no kids at 30, everybody's life is different. Everybody's life is different. Everybody's life is different. So we need to stop putting this stigma on people and rushing people to live up to an expectation that's not their life. What's up, you guys? It's your girl Bianca B, and welcome to the Bianca B Show, where we talk about business, finances, and friendships. So happy first week of August. I can't believe time is flying. I approximately have August, September, October, November, 4 more months until I turn 30. So it is grind time. It's a lot of reflecting. It's a lot of healing. It's a lot of, just getting me together. And so I kind of just want to dive in. Let's just talk about how I feel. I really want this topic to be about independence and the pros and cons of being an independent person, and the things that I've learned throughout my 20s that I wish I would have known a lot earlier. So we just about to dive into it. The pros and cons of being independent. So let's get real about being independent. It's dope to have your own. I don't discredit that. You should work hard, have your own money, have your own crib, have your own luxury items, whatever it is, have your own business. I feel like ownership is super important. I've seen growing up women be dependent on men, and I think for me that was one of the reasons why I had strived to be so independent. And I think that when I dig deep into childhood and my upbringing, I was a spoiled kid. I got everything I wanted, so I would never discredit my parents and the things that I, was able to receive throughout life. Like, I've had a lit life. I know people who haven't had a lit life, but being the only child from my mother and in the household when my parents divorced, I had to grow up very quickly, and I had to learn how to do things on my own. And I love that, but as I became an adult, it really jeopardized a lot of my relationships because I didn't know how to ask for help. I thought that being independent and your accomplishments is how you got a man, and that is far from the case. I think a lot of women think that just because you have all these my own, I'm a girl boss, and yes, that's great. However, I can only speak for myself. It has jeopardized those intimate personal relationships when it came to men, right? So, being independent is dope. You don't gotta rely on nobody. You can walk in your house whenever you feel like it. You can do whatever you want. But throughout this life and throughout my 20s, I really struggle with asking for help. And as I mentioned, I'm the only child from my mom. From my dad, it's 4 of us. And so when I grew up in the household, even when my parents were married, it was me, and then my brother would come and visit, all the time. But he didn't per se live with us. And then when my parents split, I lived with my mom, and it was just me and her. So I had to grow up very quickly. I even moved across country by myself, at such a young age. And so, yes, independence is amazing, but I really struggle with friendships and personal relationships. And so my advice to people who are super independent is it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to, rely on people. And so there's 2 types of only children. There's the type that are dependent, and then there's the type that's independent, right? So I've seen only children go 2 different routes. I've seen only children be very codependent on their relationships, and I've seen, only children be independent. So as I become an adult and going into my 30s, I definitely don't want one kid. I definitely would like to have back-to-back children, because when you're the only child, when you get older and you start thinking about your parents and you start thinking about those things, it's like, shit, if something happens to my mom, it's just me, So I think if I'm going into my 30s and I have kids, best believe I'm having two. Okay, one kid is not enough. Some people are okay with one child, but if I were a parent, I would have two. Just so you have that partnership, because you grow up spoiled. You grow up, everything is yours. And then even living on my own, I don't know how to share. I'm grown as hell and I don't know how to share. So I definitely want, more than one kid for sure. So when you're super independent, there's like this stigma about super independent women, especially Black women, that we're bitter, that we're defensive, that we're all these different names that society calls us. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired. Just because somebody seems strong, just because somebody seems like they have their shit together, deep down we don't have our shit together. Super independent people, like, if you can relate, people hardly ever ask us if we're okay. When I was going through my depression last year, man, I just go back to that moment. Oh my God, why am I getting emo? When I was depressed last year, and almost took my life, it was my friend Tabitha and my friend Michelle one time. And they literally were there for me, like, are you okay? So when you have your strong friends and those strong people that you're thinking independent, check up on them, because we are not always good. And people will ask us for help, but the moment that we ask other people for help, we don't get it in return, or people are like, no, I don't got it. So you feel that when you do ask for help and people reject you, you be like, you know what? I'm not asking nobody for help. So that was something that I definitely, to this day, still struggle with. Like, when I ask people for help, especially if I'm dating a man and he can't provide, like, okay, on to the next. You definitely want to be with somebody that can help you and want to see you be great. So I think vulnerability plays a huge role in when you're independent. I'm learning how to be vulnerable, which is something that I work on daily. It's just opening up to people and not having this wall up. But ask your strong friends, are they okay? Especially your independent people. And sometimes when you're super independent, you be like, when people do things for you, you're like, what's this person's intention? And so we also, if you're super independent, you need to get out of that as well, that people sometimes genuinely want to help you, because you're so used to when you did ask for help and people rejected that, then when somebody does come in and step in and do nice things for you, you're like, hold up, what do you want? So as a woman and as a feminine woman, you have to be open to receiving. And so, like, when people do nice things for me, like, I'm dating a guy right now and he does nice things for me, and I'm like, I love this shit. This shit is nice. So be open to receiving, like, and it's okay. Breaking a generational curse. A lot of us have a lot of family history, and mine being that a lot of the women in my family are super independent, but they also, were dependent on men, which is why they became independent. So I had to learn how to reprogram my mind to be like, okay, I'm going to ask for help. And if a person can't do it, it is okay. So sometimes things are a family or ripple effects, especially when it comes to women. Sometimes there's a ripple effect from your grandma, your great grandma, to your aunties, to your cousins, sometimes it's a ripple effect. And sometimes you have to reprogram your mind and be like, you know what? I'm not super independent. I'm not bitter. I need to work on this, or I need to go deep within and break this generational curse, So of this bitter stigma and things like that, because sometimes that does carry on in our friendships, in our family. And so you got to go within that too, like what is the generational curse of the dependent and non-dependent type of thing. So me, I mentioned this before, I have trust issues, and that's something I have to work on daily, controlling situations when I should just let a person lead, just let a man lead, So I'm learning that, but it definitely is an adjustment. And it's also culturally too, how you were raised, going back to that generation. How were you raised? Like, were you raised with trust issues? Were you raised to have this perspective that, oh, men ain't this or that? Were you, like, how were you raised? How were you brought up? Did you see loving parents in your home? Did you see abuse in your home? Like, those things really, really play a role into your 20s, period, into your adult life. So if I could give advice, is like really start going to therapy young and start healing that at least by 25, 26. Like, start doing the inner work, because you can reprogram your mind, and you can reprogram that stigma of what's been passed down to you and what you grew up seeing and believing. So if it were me, I would have went to therapy years ago. I think my first therapy session, I was 27. I was 27 when I first did therapy. I had a mentor. She really dissected my life probably like 24. But my first therapy session was 26. So I would say, 25, 26, like really start doing the work. Start doing the work. Everything ends with you. So the pros and cons of independent, it's great. It's good to have your own, but it's okay for a person to come in and help you. And it's okay. And sometimes people, their intentions may not be good and may be good. You don't know unless you try. But if I could go back, I wouldn't be so independent. I would have, been more open to people doing nice things for me and doing dope things for me, and just being kind, and just being open to more friendships and more relationships, and just being more present in my relationships, and not just being so stubborn. So if I could go back, those are some things that I would change from my early 20s. So if you are in your early 20s, start working on those inner childhood traumas. I'm telling you, because you don't want to get to 30 and be like, and also turning 30. I also saw a post of somebody saying that if you single and no kids at 30, everybody's life is different. So all of that, when people are judgy about people and rushing people to have kids and things like that, you don't know what's going on in a woman's body and things like that. So we need to stop doing that online and doing that and rushing people to have kids and be married at a certain age. Like, that's not everybody's life. Would you rather somebody be 25, then had 5 or 6 kids and got a divorce at 27? You know what I'm saying? Like, or waited to 30, 35 to build with a person and have things the right way. Like, everybody's life is different. So we need to stop with that stigma of, oh, single and no kids thing. Like, that's annoying. I look at Shameless Maya. Shameless Maya was 39, 38. I have been following her for decades. And just to see her in such a healthy, happy marriage at 41 with a kid, like, everybody's life is different. Everybody's life is different. So we need to stop putting this stigma on people and rushing people to live up to an expectation that's not their life. So I'm going on a tangent, but those are the pros and cons of being independent. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram at it's Bianca B. Follow at Bianca B Show. I kind of was like late putting up videos because I just really needed to rest. Like, I needed to rest. Like, I enjoyed my little mini vacation. It was great. I felt recharged. And it's your girl Bianca B. Bye, guys. Bianca B, 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 Bianca B.